Gary Hanna, and I'm from Dallas, and I'm here to testify in support of SB1. You received a picture of our daughter, Hadley, earlier. She's the one in the white dress. For 14 years, I spent my summers on the magical banks of the Guadalupe River at Camp Mystic. I met my best friends there, learned how to be a good sport, and grow spiritually. I couldn't wait to have a daughter so she could go to Mystic and experience what I did. Even though it wasn't technically written in our wedding vows, I made Doug promise if we had a daughter, she would go to Camp Mystic. 9 years ago this week, we found out we were having Hadley. Before I get any further, let me tell you a little about Hadley. Hadley is the middle sister of Harper, who is 10, and was also at camp and rescued by the grace of God. And Hunter May, who is 6. She was the glue. Hadley was the best, happiest baby from the start. And as she grew, her love and her smile grew too. To know her was to love her because she loved everyone. She loved to give hugs, sometimes of the sneak attack variety, kisses and pets. Hadley was the nicest, sweetest, happiest person, always exuding joy. She always wanted to help her friends, whether it was teaching them how to tie their shoes or become a better gymnast. Hadley was a go-getter, and she knew what she wanted, and she worked her hardest to make it happen. She was so smart and insightful and wanted to be the best, most well-rounded person she could be. I was lucky enough to chaperone the Mystic Dallas bus to camp on June 29th. As I went to tell Hadley and Harper goodbye, I saw Hadley running across the field to see Harper in her cabin. They had been apart for 5 minutes at the most. Once I convinced them to come outside and take one last selfie and tell me goodbye, Hadley jumped down from the porch and started cartwheeling her way to her cabin. She heard me laughing, stopped, turned around, threw her hands in the air, and screamed, "I love this place." That was what camp was supposed to be all about. After all, the line, "Camp in My Dreams," is a song all Mystic girls learn and sing. Camp is where you learn new skills like horseback riding, diving, fishing. Hadley caught 2 massive bass and looked thrilled. Not thrilled enough to hold them in the photos, though. Camp is where you play games with silly names like deck tennis and steal the bacon. It is where you sometimes sing funny songs about buffaloes. Camp is supposed to be a break from the hard rigors and stress of the school year, where you can look at the stars in the clear sky at night and braid hair during campfires, where you make your best friends that become your college roommates and later stand beside you at your wedding. Unfortunately, 5 days after starting, the camp of my dreams turned into a living nightmare I cannot wake up from. Hadley, Harper, and all the campers should have woken up on July 4th and celebrated the holiday with their new friends. Instead, Hadley was pulled out of a window of her twins' 2 cabin after it had filled with water. Less than 10 feet away were stairs to an upstairs apartment. That higher ground could have saved her life and the 5 girls in her cabin that also passed away. Hadley wasn't the strongest swimmer, not that it mattered in those waters, but she was strong, so strong. I thought if she could hold on to something, she would be okay. Instead, she and 2 other little girls were knocked out of a tree and died. In total, 5 of the 12 girls from her cabin also died. Our precious, hilarious, kind, caring, silly, loving little girl who always wanted to help others died because there was no plan, because there was no backup system or sirens, because the sweet 18 and 19-year-old counselors did not have the training they needed. Instead, they were told to stay in place, a rule that proved to be fatal. To the best of our knowledge, the water started rising a little after 1 a.m. on the 4th. I woke up at 7 a.m. to text after text telling me that 2 little girls from Hadley's cabin had been found down the river by a neighbor and asking if I had heard anything. The answer was nothing. From our understanding, and this all needs to be investigated, There were over 6 hours of children being swept away and dying before anyone could come to their aid. On Saturday, July 5th, I made Doug drive me out to camp. We had gone 24 hours with basically zero information, and I needed to yell for Hadley and all of the girls who were missing. As we drove to camp, we saw no one in the water. No boats, people, nothing. They were all on the side of the roads. The air, too, was empty of helicopters, drones, and satellites. Just quiet and blue skies all around. We had a meeting at the church with officials at 10 o'clock on the night of the 5th, and we were once again without answers. We were told to come back the next morning at 7 to give DNA, and that there would finally be answers. I personally asked if there were children in the morgue whose parents hadn't been notified. I had originally heard this from the media. The answer was yes. There were 5 whose parents were in the process of being notified and 1 unidentified. It turns out that 1 was our sweet daughter, Hadley Rebecca. The only way the Rangers knew for sure it was her was after I told them she had had alternating green and yellow nail polish on her fingernails. The child laying in a makeshift morgue could not have looked more different than our beautiful girl. It is a sight I can't get out of my head. It haunts me day and night and is all I think about. I think about how much she suffered and how scared she had to have been in that dark, cold water. It kills me that I couldn't have helped her. Before Hadley left for camp, she was worried about being away from me for a month. You see, she may have her dad's personality, but she was my mini-me and my best friend. I promised her she would be safe and okay. I told her camp was the safest place she could be, and she would make new friends and learn new things. I lied to her. She not only wasn't safe, she died. We sat around for 16 hours praying, hoping, pacing, getting prank phone calls and texts from people saying they had her, for her only to be found down the road, alone. The overwhelming lack of prevention, detection, training, and response in this situation is mind-boggling, and is what we are asking SB1 to address. This is not the first flood, and it certainly won't be the last. How did things go so wrong? Hadley could very easily be one of you if she had been given the chance to grow up, advocating to make her city and her state a better place. She dreamed of being a Longhorn and would have worked hard to accomplish that goal. Now it has been stolen from her because of blaring gaps in camp safety that cost our daughter her life and 26 other girls their lives. Hadley was the biggest ray of sunshine, always smiling, singing, dancing, or doing cartwheels as she went along her way. She lit up every room with her smile, her laughter, and her love, spreading joy to those along the way. That is who Hadley is and will be remembered as, our angel, beautiful on the inside and out, observant, compassionate, caring, kind, silly, smart, full of love and life, a vibrant ray of light. I mourn the loss of an amazing daughter, sister, granddaughter, niece, cousin, and friend. I mourn for the loss of camp friendships that never will be, not just for Hadley, but for her sisters as well. Camp must be a place where parents can send their kids and not stress about their safety the entire time they are there. Please, I beg you all to do what is best for children all over our state, country, and world that come to Texas each summer to get away from the stress of life and to have fun. There's no reason camp can't be fun and safe. Do it for our girls who can't ask you for help. Do it for your own children, grandchildren, or your friends' children. Don't let this opportunity pass you by without doing something. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
My name is Doug Hanna. I'm here to testify in favor of SB1. God graced us with knowing Hadley on this earth until her life was cut short by a preventable and terrible death. I know Hadley is looking down at us from heaven and smiling. She was so kind and caring from the start. She really looked up to her big sister Harper and watched out for her little sister Hunter. At times, she drove me crazy, but I was just starting to really get her and understand her. 8 years, 4 months, and 22 days wasn't long enough. I'm going to miss the hugs, the daddy-daughter dates, the laughs, the passionate conviction, the cartwheels and poses, her kissy-face lips, and everything about her fun-loving personality. She loved everyone in her life and had so many wonderful relationships throughout our community. I'll always miss her with every moment of every day with all my heart. On July 4th, I woke up to my wife frantically texting other moms. They were texting about Mystic, and my curiosity was piqued. She seemed shocked, and I had asked her what was going on. She told me a girl from Hadley's cabin had been found in a tree miles downriver. That was enough for me. I took the brisket off the smoker, put my chainsaw in the truck, and started driving to get my girls, Harper and Hadley. On the way down, around Hico, we got official word. Hadley was missing. I arrived at the reunification center in Ingram around 12:30 on the 4th. It was a sobering scene. The names of people being found were read aloud. At some point, they led the families of people known to be missing into a back room. Sometime later, after a Black Hawk helicopter ride and a medical evaluation, I got the word that Harper was ready to be released. I worked my way to the front of a line of worried parents and finally saw Harper with my own eyes. I gave her a giant hug, and with tears in my eyes, I walked with her away from the commotion. We sat down on a curb, and I told her, Hadley is missing. She said, "No, Dad, Hadley's in a tree." I had to let her know that she was missing, and that the longer someone is missing in a situation like this, the more likely it is that when we find her, it will be bad news. She said, "What do you mean bad news? Is Hadley dead?" I told her she could be. Harper asked me how we would deal with that. I told her we would deal with it as a family. It was the only common sense answer I could think of, and I couldn't lie to her. Since attending the Band Together Texas concert here in Austin Sunday night, Harper has wanted to talk about the night of the flood. She's having flashbacks and hasn't been able to sleep without one of us by her side. We feel guilty because we sent our girls to a camp we thought was safe. Don't get me wrong, we love camp. I went to Worth Ranch Boy Scout camp. It made me stronger. When you pick your daughter up from camp the first year, you can see that they have grown and matured. We thought Mystic was safe. Didn't know we were sending our daughters to sleep in cabins that were removed from the floodplain through an administrative process. We're asking for common sense legislation that holds camps to the same standards as other places we send our kids, like daycare and school. When you send your kid to camp, you expect to pick them up. You don't expect them to leave camp in a Black Hawk, and you don't expect them to be swept away in the middle of the night by rushing floodwaters. We're asking for these reforms so that no other Texans have to meet their children miles away from camp and explain to them that their sister might not be coming home. When you send your kids to camp, you don't expect the next time you see them, you will be identifying their body with the Texas Rangers. We want to make camp safe. We want to make sure none of the families that send their kids to go to camp in 2026 share this nightmare. I didn't know what love was until our first daughter was born, and I didn't know what sorrow was until we lost Hadley. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Ms. Hollis?